Borderlands 2 is one of the greatest games ever, don't argue, it simply is. And one of the things that makes it so good is the bazillions of weapon combos to play with. But what if we cut that selection to only pistols? Can you beat Borderlands 2 with only pistols? Hi, I'm Tally and I'll be trying to answer that question. Now, before I can dive in, I do need to warn you, there are some rules, they are on screen, and there's a couple of them. But other than that, it's time to dive in. We're going to start off our adventure with the first big decision, character selection. Of all 6 Borderlands 2 characters, by far the best for this challenge is the Gunzerker, who has a skill tree built around dual wielding guns and specialises in pistols, so he can build into mega damage. Now, after being rescued by Claptrap, I immediately dive headfirst into the DLCs in order to gain an early few levels. Doesn't really impact the run too much, since I'll still spend most of it way under leveled, but it'll make the first area of the game slightly less boring. Now, with a couple levels in badass under my belt, it's time to actually play the game. We've got to get back Claptrap's eye, so I run straight into the action, taking on Bullymong after Bullymong to make my way to the daddy of them all, Knuckle Dragger, who goes down like a chump since I'm a walking tank. Now, with Clappy's eye back in my possession, it's time to head over to the only guy around, who also happens to be able to fix Clapton. That's a bit of a coincidence. With that behind me, it's time to go into the first of many rampages. I got to get Cartman's boat, which is currently in the possession of Captain Flint. However, there stands a couple of challenges between Flint and I. Their names are Boom and his brother Boom. It's a fetish thing. Since they're early game dweebs, they go down like your mum after a bottle of Buckfast, and we move on to Mr. Flint himself. Time to rampage. Sick. Now, as per maritime law, I am the captain now. The first thing I do as captain is travel towards Sanctuary, only to be met with a boat's worst enemy, land. So now I've got to hoof it the rest of the way. However, after all that effort, they won't let me in. Apparently I need to go check on their friend. He's not doing great.
Rebozo.
As a show of condolences, I grab a battery for them and head back to town. Now that I'm in Sanctuary, I'm going to beeline to Marcus's shack and get some early XP by trying out a couple different toys until I get to the slag one, which I promptly steal. Not because it's particularly broken or special, sometimes it's just nice to have an early game slag weapon. Turns out, Roland's been kidnapped by the Firehawk. So now add a new name to my long list of people who I will not be inviting to my birthday party. I do suppose this is really important, so it's time to immediately head out and grind for a new toy. The Unkempt Harold is one of the most powerful weapons in the entirety of Borderlands 2. It's a pistol that shoots 7 explosive rounds and can come in the double penetrating variant that shoots 14 rounds per shot. There's 2 ways you can get it, either by grinding in the Torg DLC or from this random dude at the start of the game. So I head over to visit Lee and manage to find a Harold on my first try. It's a pretty good day. With my new toy on my belt, I head over to the Frostburn Canyon and boulder through everything in front of me. I have no idea why they let you do this so early, but I am incredibly thankful. Eventually we get to the Firehawk's lair to find Lilith from Borderlands 1, who's now back on my birthday party list on the grounds that I would let her step on me. She needs a little help with some unwanted company, and since I am a good fedora wearing Discord moderator, I do exactly that. While fighting off Lily's stalkers, the internet kind, not my nightmare kind, we learn that Rory has in fact been kidnapped, not by the Firehawk though, by some bandits. So the rampage continues, and we're going to go take the fight to the Bloodshots in their stronghold. However, that mission takes place in the same area as my next cool toy, so before I head out to meet Dr. Zed and learn how to perform bottom surgery and report to Patricia Tannis, who I would let step on me. He then sends me out to figure out what's been causing issues with the bandits. Spoilers, it's Doc Mercy and his magic E-Tech gun that shoots lasers. The Doc also goes down like your mum. However, in doing so, he drops an Infinity, a legendary pistol that has, well you guessed it, infinite ammo. Back to terms of rampagement, I show up at the door and get turned away, which has happened twice in the last 10 minutes, and by this point, it is getting a little bit hurtful. I'm told that if I get a cooler bandity car, then I can join their club. So I head over to my local Vauxhall dealership where I meet Ellie, who, you guessed it, can step on me. She says she'll get me a new bandit car if I can go get some parts. However, I'm broke, so I resort to explosions and theft. The Infinity here is a godsend, since these bad boys actually crumble to high DPS, and after committing Grand Theft Auto 5 times in a row, I now have a badass bandit wagon. The next obstacle is Badmaw, and when I say obstacle, I mean minor inconvenience. However, Sadboz over here can in fact be incredibly useful. He and his merry men drop a good amount of XP, and since I'm underleveled, I'm going to use him to grind up till about level 12. Not super low, but higher than some enemies in there, lower than some others. And the Bloodshot Stronghold is the first area in the game where I'd say it can get tough. There's just so much going on above and below, and it can be rough to manage, so you've got two options. If you're a squishy character, then you'll have to take it slow and clear rooms as you go. If you're a more tanky character, you can get your head down and rush. Guess which option I took? If you said rush, you would be correct. I think that one's pretty obvious. And I was rewarded by getting to meet my hero Roland, my absolutely favourite guy, who immediately gets kidnapped. Now, I'm not saying it's weird to be kidnapped twice in 24 hours, I am definitely thinking it out loud though. Man's got more kidnappings on his record than Liam Neeson's family. So to round off our trip to the dam, the water kind, sadly not the Amster kind, we take on the Warden, and I forget to let my guns out charge, so I really just raw dog it. But as per usual, the unkempt Harold carries my unkempt ass to victory. Now Roblox is back in the gang, and he informs us that Hyperion, the bad guys, have a vault key, and would like to use it to take over the entire planet. Conveniently though, it's been carried on a train that is a literal hop, skip and a jump away from Sanctuary. In order to stop the train, we need to meet the living personification of Roar XD I'm So Random Humour. Introducing Tiny Tina, everyone's favourite character of 2012. She introduces us to her ladies, and asks us to find their badonkadonks. And I'll never say no to hunting down some badonkadonkies. When we come on back, Tina gives the ladies their explosive personalities back, and we get to experience one of my favourite moments in all of gaming. Now, I've got to warn you, this next boss took down all of our old friends from Borderlands 1 without breaking a sweat. And damn, he's already done for. What a pushover. He also has a cool battery, so I'll add that to the collection. And the battery was a trap. The Warden, also a trap. And Wilhelm, also a trap. We have thoroughly activated Jack's trap card. So he starts bombarding with Sanctuary with, well, bombs. So we got to get this bad boy airborne ASAP Rocky. Speaking of rocks, I grab a couple from Roland, take them to Lilith, she gets everything in the air, and I have no idea where I've gone. But we're going to meet up with them, and to do that, we need to head to the fridge. Alright, so Lilith managed to save me, but now I have a problem. Rockman owes me £20, and I need that back desperately. So, I will literally be moving heaven and earth for it, and here's the game plan. I'm hungry, so we need to head to the fridge. Turns out the fridge doesn't have food, it's just simply cold as shit. Don't ask me what I was expecting because the answer is always pizza. Now, we get to talk about stalkers, not the online kind, my nightmare kind. They live out in the Highlands and they are nastier than shit on the 21st of April. They give me the worst of vibes. But thankfully here, they're largely skippable and there's some jackbots to help out. Fun fact, if you're fast here, you can also just cross this bridge before it gets blown up. Not so fun fact, this Thresher killed me 3 times. It's not supposed to be hard, I'm just pretty underleveled, and I've been relying on a level 8 unkempt Harold for roughly 5 levels too many at this point. However, slamming my head off the wall until success hasn't failed me yet, and it didn't fail me today. Last but not least is getting the Moonshot Beacon online so I can get my £20 back. I heard a long time ago it's faster to do nothing and let the robots kill the beacon a few times. However, my ADHD symptoms will simply not let that happen. Who loves the zoo? I do. What I don't love though is the sharp realisation that I'm so underleveled.
Oh my god! Bruh.
This isn't a hard area by any means, but all those enemies having skulls made me really start thinking I should grind a little bit. That and all the dying I did. But I won't say I'm not stubborn, I managed to brute force my way to roughly right here. This little section where you got to fight some robots and stalkers. I managed it though, Took me 20 minutes of battering my head off the desk, but I did it. And then there's this fucker. Here's where the journey stops. I just couldn't do it. I tried to beat him like 5 or 6 times off camera and it was not happening. I could not put a dent in this huge metal asshole. So I resorted to the shameful task of grinding and getting better weapons. Who'd have thunk that being vastly underleveled could have made the challenge much more difficult? So I went back to see Tina, who's got a little mission for us. We got to rescue Reginald von Bartlesby from his overprotective mother. Next, we shoot down some buzzards in order to turn them into teapots, and lastly, we escort Mr. Fleshstick to the evening's main event. He sadly has a real knack for dying though. Once we play bodyguard for long enough, Tina ends the party because Fleshstick hit a badging, but I did get to leave the party with a kettle.
I think you'll find I brought this with me.
Back to the main story though, I'm back and more powerful than ever, and while still a little underleveled, it's manageable. All that work though, only to find that Buckbeak has been moved, and I did all of that grinding for nothing. Morty tells me that the eagle from Lord of the Rings is actually somewhere else in the facility though, so back on the grind we go. And I will say, this petting zoo does a terrible job at bringing me any sort of joy, so I get rid of what must be 4 or 5 endangered species. Wait, what? This isn't a petting zoo? And now I'm the asshole? And now it's time to beat up Bloodwing so we can drag its inflated ass back to Sanctuary. Handsome Jack made Bloodwing all elemental and stuff, and to be quite honest, I really like the idea of having a flying nuclear weapon. Like, imagine I'm fighting robots, it can just come in all acidy, or if I'm fighting like people, then Bloodwing could like hit him with a Phoenix Force, or if I need support we can get her all slagged up and she can like drain shields with lightning. But I wonder how explosive would work though. Oh. Well, back to Sanctuary we go. Okay, well Jacksepticeye over here is absolutely crushed and we cannot continue the war effort without our sniper. So, I've been asked to help him indulge in his unhealthy coping mechanisms. Off to the dust we go to track down some local rackhail. All we have to do is put a crack down on this van full of booze and now we have a problem. Moxie called and said she'd give me a really cool pistol if I gave her the booze. However, doing that would rob Mr. Bombastic Side-Eye of his only escape from grief. So of course I let Moxie have the beer, and the Birdman will just have to come to learn to deal with his emotions in a healthy way, because that's what real men do. Anyway, apparently this whole time Roland's wanted me to head to Thousand Cuts to go see an old friend of his. On the way there, I cause a wee bit of chaos and meet my favourite character, Face McShooty. And upon arriving, the Slab King thinks we're out to join his crazy cult. Because that's what this is, you know. And he's right, I have incredible FOMO. So I go through the gauntlet, and I'll be honest, I love this section. The Goliaths end up being like their own little mini-game. I just love to get a good old Goliath in there. Not today though, as I'm horrendously underprepared. But anyway, of course, I ace it, and now I am in fact a cult leader. Alright, next step now that I'm a cult leader, I need to copy Handsome Jack's voice to convince more followers that I'm actually him in disguise. Fortunately, I know a guy who had the same idea. He went a little further though and actually made himself look like Jack. However, I refused to do that. Anyway, he makes my day terrible, but thanks to the power of being the main character, I just keep trying until he dies. And while I'm here, I might as well cause a little bit of chaos for Lilith. And Moxie asked me to help her gush all over the place. Oh Jesus, that is gross. I can't believe I wrote that. And with a cult backing me up, I just need to get enough clout to convince people I'm Jack, so it's time to take on the bunker and get the vault key from Angel. I forget that I'm not actually a Hyperion robot, but once the Clapman does me a solid and turns off a death wall, I start climbing this tower like I'd koala climb your mum. All that climbing just to be one guy by the Uber Mega Constructor. Took me forever to kill this guy, just for this to happen. It's okay, it's okay. Despite my setbacks, I get to the top of the mountain and I take down the bunker defences, only for Jack to reveal that the bunker is in fact a boss fight. Now, being honest, I'm a huge fan of this boss. Maybe that's because I spent forever farming it, or because it's really just not a hard boss fight at all. It just kind of flies around and soaks up damage until it starts spewing everywhere. Turns out Angel was a siren this whole time, and yes, she can step on me. Our task here is to break the iridium pipes that are being injected into Angel against her will. This will undoubtedly kill her, but I feel like at this point we're a bit far gone to discuss the sanctity of life. Earlier on, I shot a guy in the face because he asked nicely.
Shoot me in the face! Take out!
So that's exactly what I do. Slowly, and I mean slowly but surely, make my way through the waves of robots being sent my way in order to keep me away from the pipes. And I'll be real, this was tough. I'm really underleveled again, and I'm getting my ass kicked, but I knew this wasn't impossible. I could do this without grinding, so I got my head down and I kept trying. A couple of lives and 20 minutes later we're done and dusted and turning in the mission to a huge, unrivaled success. Everyone got what they wanted. I got loot, Roland and Lilith got the key, and Jack got to shoot Roland. Wait, what was that last one again? Oh god. So now we've been sent back to Sanctuary to protect us, and we're kind of heading into the end game. So I was hoping that if I was fast enough I could just make it across the bridge and into the next section of the game, but lo and behold, I just launched myself off a bridge. Now let's not pretend that anyone likes Sawtooth Cauldron, so let's speedrun it. Let's start off by blowing up the welcome party that Mortar sends my way. I will however get some revenge for this, because I do not stand for rudeness. For that revenge, I decide to key his car and make a daring escape over a pit of lava for extra cool points. And lastly, I just killed him. That seems fitting for revenge. Lastly, I take out some buzzards, keeping me away from my sweet, sweet, sweet salvation. And with all that said and done, it's time to head over to the best area of the game. Now that we've made it to the Badlands, it's time to end this. Okay, that was a bit dramatic since the end of the game's still like an hour away. But yeah, if we can get onto this pipe right here, then we'll actually be able to get to the next section of the game very quickly. But it breaks. This unfortunately means we've got to take some time to turn off 6 separate pipes in groups of 2. No, I don't think this is unbelievably boring on every playthrough after the first one. That's actually a lie. I do think that. I very much think that. Now that that's over though, it's time for the real coolest part of the game. The Arid Nexus Badlands takes everything back to the start. Here's where we find out where Lilith is, but also it's where we get one of the best pistols in the game, Lady Fist, a pistol with a whopping 800% critical hit damage, which can be passed on to other pistols when gunzerking. We're going to keep it in our pocket for now though, since Uranus here doesn't have many crit spots. And now I get to show you what the Lady Fist does against these robots and this super constructor. It just shreds Hyperion. Now we do a tiny little bit of parkour to get up to where we need to be, and now we know where Lilith is. She's been kept at Heroes Pass by stupid sexy Flanders Jack, so now it really is time to head into the end game. Alright, we're hitting the end of the game and we have some obstacles to overcome. First of all, the door section. This is hardly an obstacle at all, really. By now, I've spec'd heavy into pistol damage and I've got a really solid loadout. So this section presents about as much challenge as kicking a puppy. It's really a moral issue, like can you really bring yourself to inflict this sort of damage to these robots? I don't think I could kick a puppy though. However, there was one part of this that drove me absolutely goddamn insane. Now, Heroes Pass is the culmination of everything Hyperion can throw at you. Soldiers and robots at the same time. They don't really have many categories, but there are lots of different types of robots though, so that makes sense. Anyway, I'll be real, this was a struggle. This was like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back situation. Like yeah, I'm making progress, but it's bloody painful. Eventually I do get ahead of the chaos though, and I do the classic grenade jump to skip a lot of pain and misery. And after a few more deaths I do brute force my way to Jack and the warrior, and at this point the run is done. Like I'm gonna shred these losers with a Lady Fist. They're gonna get fisted like they've never been fisted before. So Jack goes down like your mum after 4 wines, cause of death, getting fisted in the head. The warrior on the other hand is nothing more than a test of patience. Like I am gonna get him. His health bar also shrivels in the face of the Lady Fist. His whole gimmick is the fact that he has huge crit spots, so we follow him around, busting down his scabby ass chest and fisting the gooey flesh underneath. I feel like I crossed a line there. I can't believe I said it out loud either. Oh, that's just... Ugh. Anyway, eventually his health bar hits 0, but I noticed that he's still breathing. So I drop a couple more shots, but to no avail. It turns out I've got to use the moonshot for the final blow against the warrior, but it's not a pistol. What am I gonna do? After hours of self-debate, some might even say mass debating, I decided that I'm gonna do what the game wants me to do. And it is in fact impossible to beat the game with only pistols. The game lets you get so far just to rip victory away from you. Nah. How crazy would that be though? Like if I just made that the whole premise and point of the video? Like that would be hilarious, wouldn't it? If the whole point of the video was just to get right here and say, oh no, you can't do it. With only pistols, you've got to use the moonshot. Man, what a ride though. This would have been less punishing if I decided to do more side quests, but I've played a lot of this game. I liked being pushed a little bit harder than I normally would, and I'm not a Borderlands pro, but it was cool to like win but be really underleveled and kind of have like this underdog story. Really, Borderlands is one of those games where you can do a run with just about anything at all, so if you do want to see anything at all, make sure to like, comment, because it's good for the algorithm. If you've not already subscribed, like please do me a favour, subscribe, that would be great. And as always, you've been amazing, I've been Tally, I will catch you all next time. Bye.